What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Francisco and this is Stream Gear Talk. Congratulations, you just bought yourself a Beacn Studio, or maybe you just got it via mail, opened it up, looked at it and thought to yourself, well, what the fuck do I do next? And if that's the case, don't worry, because this video, we're going to cover everything that the Beacn Studio and the Beacn app has to offer for that hard-earned $250 you just spent on this device. But what am I going to cover? I'll tell you right now, don't you worry. We're going to cover how to set this thing up and use it in a single PC setup, a dual PC setup, a single PC and console setup. Also, I'm going to walk you through on how to connect your microphones, how to set up your microphones, how to equalize your microphones, and take advantage of all the processing that the Beacn app has to offer, how to connect a headphone. And there's a couple of other extra surprises out there that I'm going to include in this really lengthy, in-depth tutorial. So if you're ready, I am. Have a seat, grab a drink, grab a snack, relax, and let's get started. So if you're going to be using the Beacn Studio with a singular PC setup, that means that you are both playing games and recording and or streaming off of the same exact computer. The Beacn Studio already comes with what you need to get started. Of course, this is all excluding the microphone, okay? You're going to take the Beacn Studio, you're going to put it on your desk somewhere in your overly cluttered setup, Barney, and then you're going to plug in one end of the USB-C cable that's provided, the USB-C end, into port number 1. This is incredibly important for all possible setups and all possible case uses going forward. Whatever you are going to use, whatever computer you're going to use to record and or stream, this has to be connected into port number 1. So you plug in the USB-C end into port number 1, and the other end, you can either use the USB-C end itself and plug it into a USB-C port on the back of your computer's motherboard, or you can use the provided USB-C to USB-A, I believe it's called, converter, and plug this into the back of your motherboard as well. It is not blue, so it doesn't matter if you use a 3.0 or just a regular USB port. Now that you've got your Beacn Studio connected to your main and only computer, the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and open up your browser of choice. That can be Mozilla Firefox, it could be Google Chrome, it could be Windows Bing, or whatever the hell it's called these days. And I just want you to type in Beacn app. I want you to do that, and the very first option that should pop up here is the Beacn app download. You're going to click that, and then, mind you, we're talking about only a single PC setup at the moment, all right? You're going to go ahead and scroll down just a little bit, and you're going to go ahead and download the Beacn app for Windows. And when you do that, you're going to go ahead and install it, and upon doing so, this is what you should see. Bam. This is the Beacn app. Now, upon startup, it might look a little different for you, and that's okay, no big deal, but congratulations, you've got the Beacn Studio connected to your PC, you've downloaded and installed the Beacn app. So, what do we do next? What I typically do when I'm installing a new audio interface is not the routing, but instead, I get the microphone set up. What you're listening to right now is the Earthworks Ethos. This is an XLR broadcast condenser microphone connected via XLR directly into the back of the Beacn Studio. When you do set up your Beacn app and you got your microphone connected, I don't think I need to walk you through on how to connect your microphone, but in case, you basically just plug in the cable at the very end of the microphone in the back over here, and then, which is the female end, I believe. Yeah, it's the female end. The male end of the cable, the one with the 3 prongs, that goes on the back of the audio interface into the XLR input on the back. I mean, if you're looking at the Beacn Studio, it's on the back left, all right? So you plug it in there. Now, when you do that, you open up the Beacn app, and what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and go over to the icon here with the microphone and the little circular shenanigans. Almost looks like a Sharingan kind of thing. Anyways, you're going to click that, and bam, here you go. This is where all the magic happens when it comes to the microphone. But I'm going to go ahead and basically start this from scratch, because what you're looking at here is exactly what my processing looks like specifically for this microphone. Okay, so let me just go ahead and copy the profile here. Actually, we're just going to create a new profile. Now that you've got your microphone connected, and we're going to start off with a blank profile here. First things first, if you're using a condenser microphone, you need to make sure that your phantom power is turned on. Phantom power is what drives condenser microphones. They need the power in order for them to function properly, in order to even be able to pick up your voice. So first things first, turn on your phantom power. Now with that being said, we're going to go down here to the bottom. Before we even touch EQ, we need to make sure that our gain is set appropriately. One of my favorite things about the Beacn app is that it has this little real-time reading of your input and your level. Okay, so if you land, if the line is you, this is me right now as I'm speaking in real time. If you land anywhere in this teal-ish area, you're good to go. All right. And right now at 34 decibels of gain, I am exactly where it is that I want to be. So I don't have to worry about touching anything as far as the gain is concerned. Now we can move over to equalizing the microphone, making it sound the way we want it to sound. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're more than welcome to copy my setup, but it's not guaranteed to sound the same because everybody's voice is unique. So I know what my voice sounds like. I know what typically the EQ should look like for my voice with this microphone and also with the SM7B. So we're going to kind of do the same thing, but please, for the love of God, don't copy my settings and expect the same exact results because that is just not how it works. What I encourage you to do instead is take the time, practice what I'm about to teach you, and find the EQ setup that works for you. Looking at the EQ graph, all we really see right now is just a series of numbers on the X and Y axis right here. And that doesn't really tell us much because I have to consider the fact that maybe a lot of you, this is the first time you are ever trying to really equalize your microphone. So thankfully, another great thing that I love about the Beacn app is that you can go right here to advanced EQ and click that. And bam, there you go. All right. Now what this does is that it labels different frequency ranges and it basically tells you what you're affecting in your voice and in the sound of your microphone as you manipulate the frequencies in that range. So what that means for me is that, okay, I know I have kind of a deep voice and I don't want this to sound like absolutely crazy. So we're going to go ahead and add a band. Boop, right here. And what you're going to do, since it's going to be your first time doing this, setting it all up, I want you to take this band and go all the way to the tippy top. And I need you to bear with me for a couple of minutes because you're going to kind of understand what it is that I'm trying to get to here. And we're going to bring this Q level and make it as narrow as we possibly can. Okay. And we're going to go one section at a time. So we're going to start with a rumble and I'm going to find and identify a portion of it that I feel makes my voice sound kind of weird. And I feel like right here, this is kind of bad. So we're going to drop it down and we're going to go ahead and bring it down to like right here. All right. And I'm just working off of what it sounds like to me. All right. We're going to add another band. We're going to bring it all the way back up. And we're going to increase this Q level and make it as narrow as we possibly can. Okay. And this time we're going to do the same exact thing, but we're going to sweep it across the warmth and boomy right here. And I feel like it sounds a little weird right here. So we're going to go ahead and bring it down just a little bit. And I think I'm going to leave it right there. Wonderful. We're going to add a band again. We're going to make sure we go as narrow as we can. We're going to bring it all the way up first so I can just get a good visual idea. And the cool thing is as you hover over frequency, gain, or Q, you can use your mouse wheel to scroll up and down and to adjust the numbers, which is just a really nice QL feature there. So now we're going to go into muddy. All right. And ooh, man, that sounds really rough, but I'm going to say like right here, it sounds fine. We're sounding okay. It's going to be fine right here. And then something around this area here just makes it sound really weird. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of cut that down by about almost 2 decibels. Okay. And for reference sake, I guess I could say, I don't want you to really like focus too much on the amount of gain that you're cutting or adding to these things just yet. That's something that maybe you can worry about in the future. Right now, I want you to operate entirely off of how it sounds to you. Okay. All right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add another band. We're going to bring it all the way back up. We're going to go ahead and make this as super narrow as we can. All right. And now we're going to do the same exact thing for boxy and resonance right here. Okay. And it's obviously sounding pretty wild right here. I feel some craziness right about here. Kind of sounds like Psycho Mantis a little bit, but we're just going to drop it down. I feel like that's almost a little too much. So let's bring it back up just a little bit. And we're going to go right there. All right. Sounds good. Rinse and repeat. Now we're here in the clarity and nasal area. If you're not careful with this one, you might end up sounding like Squidward at the end of the day, which some of you may want to do that, and that's entirely up to you. But let's go ahead and start sweeping it here at the very tippy top. All right, I feel like I hear some craziness here. And we're going to go ahead and just drop that down just a little bit right there. That sounds fantastic. No, actually we're fine. Okay, it sounds great right here for me right now. Add another band. Let's go over here to presence and harshness. And we're going to make that one, again, as narrow as we can. And now we start sweeping, going left and right. Try to continue talking as you continue to do this real quick. This sounds great. This sounds fine. This is kind of questionable here in a 2000 range. I just want to make sure. Yeah, so 2000, like right around here. All right, we're going to go ahead and just bring that. We're actually going to elevate that. No, it's a little harsh. Just a little bit of a drop. All right, that's fine. We add the band once more. Now, sibilance, I'm just going to tell you right now, sibilance can make your S's and T's sound very harsh if you're not careful with what you're doing. So I'm not even going to bother messing with the Q for this one. I'm just going to drop it just a little bit. Silly, silly, silly. Susie, Susie, Susie. All right, those S's and T's, if you're finding them to be harsh, then your sibilance is a little too high. You're just a very sibilant speaker, or your microphone is just very susceptible to sibilance. So if you're finding that as an issue with whatever microphone you're using, this is the range that you're going to want to focus on when you're trying to adjust for that. We add our second to last band. We move over here to brightness. Now, right now, this microphone doesn't have a whole lot on the high end going on. So I'm not even going to bother, scraping or sweeping up here. I'm just going to go here into the middle and add a little bit of life in the top end of the microphone itself. And then one more final band. We're going to go ahead and add that one in here. And we're going to do the same exact thing for air. And that's going to add a little bit more life to the microphone, and voila. Now, right now, as I'm listening to it, it still sounds a little bit too much on the low end. So let me go ahead and just bring it down just a little bit to like right here. And this is what we sound like now. Congratulations. You just equalized your microphone. Now, before we move on, I just want to tell you real quick, all right, there is a golden rule to follow when it comes to equalizing your microphone, and that is to cut before you boost, okay? And that's exactly what we did just now. I went from the low end all the way to the high end, and the first things that I did is that I cut all of my frequencies ranges from the low end all the way up through to the mid range. Once I got to the mid range, I had cut enough, and I know, because I've done this for quite some time, that the high end is usually where I'll boost a bit to compensate for what I cut on the low and the middle parts of the frequency band, or the EQ band, if you will. So again, remember, you cut before you add. If that doesn't make any sense to you, then I'll try explaining it this way. If you plug in your microphone and you're looking at a flat EQ line, and you find that there's not a whole lot going on the high end, that the higher end of your voice doesn't sound as pronounced, right? Because the low end is pretty pronounced, like on a microphone such as the SM7B, which is notorious for being super warm and rich. Your first instinct might be to boost the high end, right? Okay, oh my goodness, I sound a little too deep with this microphone, so let me boost the high end first. That is not what you should do. What you should do instead is cut on the low end first, and if that still doesn't get you to where you want to be, then you boost the high end by just a little bit at a time, okay? You follow that rule and you're going to have great sounding audio easily. Now, let's move on. So earlier in the video, I mentioned that there was a couple of extra elements I was going to add to this video to, I guess, kind of add some value to you. And obviously, because I was also curious and wanted to see if certain things work or don't work when using it with the Beacn Studio. And if all that doesn't make sense, it's going to make sense in here in just a second. So one of the things that I was curious about is, am I able to connect a wireless lav mic system such as the Fifine M9, or you can use one of the Rode wireless systems, for example? Am I able to connect that to the Beacn Studio and use the Beacn app and take advantage of all the processing that comes with it to maximize and get the best possible audio I can while using a lavalier mic system? Well, I actually haven't tried this out, so we're going to be doing this together for the first time. But unfortunately, I'm sorry to be that guy, there are a few things that you're going to need in order to execute this in the event that this actually works. First and foremost, for $10, you're going to have to go ahead and buy this a converter, something that converts a 3.5 millimeter cable into a male XLR connection. This right here is the Rode VXLR. You can find it on Amazon for 10 bucks. You buy this, and there's a really good chance that your wireless mic lav system came with a double male end TRS cable. Okay, so TRS, by the way, what that stands for is tip ring sleeve, and that's just basically the divisions between the 2 or 3 black rings that you have on these cables. For the purposes of this use case, you're going to want to use a TRS cable and not a TRRS cable, which is a tip ring sleeve. All right, you don't want to use the TRRS cable. You want to use the TRS cable. I'm going to set this up and we're going to try this out. And by the way, just to show you what ends up happening is that you end up connecting the TRS cable into the VXLR, and then you're going to connect the other end of the TRS cable into your receiver, and boom. This should hypothetically work when connected into the XLR input on the back of the Beacn Studio. So let's see. And in case you're like super following along with what I'm doing and you're about to try this out, if you're using a condenser microphone or a signal booster on a dynamic microphone that both, either one of those two require phantom power, for the love of God, please turn off your phantom power first, wait a few seconds, and then unplug your microphone. You don't want to run the risk of possibly ruining your microphone by unplugging it with the phantom power still turned on. So turn that shit off first. So it turns out that it works, because what you're listening to right now is the Fifine M9, which is a wireless lavalier mic system connected to that XLR converter. And I've got it plugged into the Beacn Studio. I'm running it through the Beacn app. And if you don't believe me, here is everything in action. You can see the meters moving around. There's no fakery. As a matter of fact, I'm sorry for your eardrums for that one, but just want to make sure you understand that this is real. This does work. I'm personally not a fan of how this sounds. It has nothing to do with the mic, because I've used the mic on my phone. It sounds amazing on the phone, but I think that for this case, it may not give you the best results. But hey, if you want to absolutely use it in this scenario, you're more than welcome to. Now, thankfully, I do have another wireless lav system that I can use, and of course, for the purposes of being thorough, I'm going to go ahead and set that up. So I'll be right back. Now for this test, instead of using the Fifine M9, I'm actually using the Rode Wireless Me wireless lav mic system, which is comprised of a transmitter and the receiver, which is what's plugged into that XLR converter, which is plugged into the back of the Beacn Studio. All of my EQ and my settings are the exact same as they were for the M9. The only difference is that for the M9, the gain in the Beacn app was set to 38 decibels. And here with the Rode Wireless Me, it is set to 30 decibels of gain. Now, I played back that Fifine M9 section just to kind of hear the audio through my speakers, and it didn't sound as bad as I initially thought it did. As a matter of fact, I was doing most of the monitoring with my DT770 Pros. These are the 80 ohm versions. And what I heard here versus what I heard coming out of the speakers were completely different. I'm not going to lie to you there. Okay, so it's up to you. Do you like how this sounds, or do you not like how it sounds? Do you like how the M9 by Fifine sounded more than how the Rode Wireless Me sounds? Or do you like the Rode Wireless Me more than the way the M9 sounded? Or do you like them both the same? And honestly, could you see this as a potential value when it comes to using it? Because honestly, sometimes as creators, you just kind of want to stand up a little bit and, you know, walk around and, I don't know, not show you the beautiful moneymaker that my mom and dad gave me. I don't actually legitimately perceive myself in that manner. I was just trying to be funny. I'm not conceited. I border the fine line between confident and arrogant, but I'm not that confident and arrogant. I don't know. Anyways, that was weird. So let's move on. Now we're back with the Earthworks ethos, okay? And yes, it feels amazing to be back. So we've connected the Beacn Studio to our single PC setup. We've connected our microphone. We equalized our microphone. We set the gain for our microphone. What else can we do for our microphone to maximize our audio using the Beacn Studio and the Beacn app? Well, the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to eliminate a whole bunch of that noise that's going on in your room. You got your PC fans, you got your ceiling fan, your AC system, your roommates or your kids or other shenanigans making a whole lot of noise outside of your room where you're streaming at. It can get a little bit annoying, can honestly interrupt the quality of your audio, right? So you're going to move over here to this noise suppression tab. And the really cool thing about how Beacn handles this is that you can basically click one button and be done with it, okay? So we're going to go ahead and assume that you haven't set this up yet. And we're going to go ahead and here on the noise suppression, and we're going to keep it under snapshot, okay? Keep it here, trust me. And you're just going to leave this. I'm going to put this, I think I put it at 80%, but if not, just set yours to 80%. And all I want you to do is click take snapshot. And when you click that, I need you to shut your mouth for like 5 seconds. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, go. And done. So what it does there is that it basically removes any gating and allows the microphone to pick up every bit of noise going on in your environment where you are streaming or recording. And it automatically sets its noise suppression level to basically eliminate any of that noise going on in the background. So congratulations, you have now set up your noise suppression. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over here to Expander. Now Expander, I have it here close to that -60. And as I said in the review of the Beacn Studio, what the Expander is that it basically is what the noise gate wishes it was. You see a noise gate, you're going to set a threshold. Hey, I'm going to set my threshold to -40 decibels. And any noise that goes higher than -40 causes the microphone gate to open, therefore allowing it to pick up that sound or record your voice, for example. And once that decibel level drops below -40, so at -41 and below, it closes the gate. And anything below -40, the microphone won't pick up, which is a fantastic thing, except for this one little issue. If you don't set your thresholds and the attack and release and hold times correctly, what ends up happening more often than not is that parts of your speech get cut off. So if the release or the opening time for the gate is a little too slow, then what ends up happening is that first part of your words, the first word that you speak gets cut off, like the first syllable just gone. It's just gone. You're going to sound kind of funny, but it's also really weird and completely destructive to recording content, right? On the flip side, if your close time is too fast, then if you have like a little bit of a pause between words or in between syllables, it closes the gate quickly and then it cuts it off right there. So what the Expander basically does is that it does what a noise gate does, but in a much smoother fashion. And honestly, for this one, all you're going to want to do is just set this up to where you're going to play around with it and you can honestly like hear yourself kind of like cutting in and out. And you're going to want to do it to where you can finally say, hey, you know what? I'm coming in nice and smooth and clear when I speak, when I start speaking, when I stop speaking, and other noise isn't coming in. Once you find that point, you stop right there, you leave it, and you don't ever touch it again. Congratulations. You just set up your Expander. Next up, let's talk about the compressor. All right, because compressor is something that is actually very important for you to have. First thing you need to understand is, what does a compressor do? What a compressor does is that it basically takes the highest parts of your speech and the lowest parts of your speech and literally compresses them down and keeps everything within a certain range of volume so that on your high end, when you're getting really loud, you don't actually sound as loud as you really are, and it keeps it lower. It lowers the volume for so to say. And when you're speaking very softly and quietly, it boosts that volume up so it can keep it within that range, kind of keep it in this little safety zone, if you will, okay? So what does that look like when you're doing it in the Beacn app? Well, you go to the compressor tab, and by default, you're going to be over here in the simple range, okay? We're going to go ahead and click advanced. I believe in you, and you're going to be just fine, okay? Under advanced, you're going to start off at 4.0 to 1. You can leave that there. That's typically what most streamers, YouTubers, broadcasters, podcasters use as far as the ratio is concerned. I don't touch attack. I do not touch release. The only thing that we're going to work on here is I'm going to leave the level right here on this meter on the input, which is this is what it sounds like when I'm speaking into the microphone. I'm going to leave it where it's at. And then I'm going to get a little bit louder and just kind of see what it sounds like whenever I'm usually speaking at my normal tone. And as you can see here, we hit like a -4.3 dB in attenuation. So we're going to take the makeup gain over here and we're going to bring that up to like about 4 decibels of gain. When you do that, it's going to basically offset the volume by around 4 or so dB, whether you're being too loud or you're not speaking highly enough. Not lowly enough, but highly enough. Congratulations, you've just set up your compressor. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, congrats. You have just set up your microphone with the Beacn Studio, and it does not matter if you're using a condenser microphone such as the Earthworks Ethos here, or a dynamic microphone such as the Shure SM7B, which I've got up on my shelf up here. It doesn't matter. The methodology, the principles are still the same. The only difference is whether or not you're using phantom power. All right. If you're connecting your dynamic microphone directly to the Beacn Studio, you do not need phantom power. If you're connecting your dynamic microphone to a signal booster, such as a cloud lifter, which you would more often than not use on a Shure SM7B, and then connecting that to the Beacn Studio, you must use phantom power. That's about the only major difference there as far as setting up the mic is concerned. Everything else, once again, in principle and in execution, is the same. Now, let's move on to plugging in your headphones. I use the Beyerdynamic DT770 Pros. These are the 80 ohm version. I've used these headphones now for about 1.5 to 2 years. And setting these things up in the Beacn app and the Beacn Studio is super simple. You literally plug in your headphone of choice into the back of the Beacn Studio. You can go ahead and pop them on if you want, just like so. And then we're going to go ahead and go over here to the Beacn app, and we're going to go to headphones. And you can see here that there's 2 different volume levels, or two different volume meters, I'm sorry, an EQ section and an amp power section. When you're using a high quality audiophile style headphone, you're probably going to want to go over here and go to amp power first and select high impedance mode. And bam, that just made a world of difference of the output that this thing does, because it's getting the juice that it needs to operate correctly. After that, you can equalize it if you want to. Personally, if you have yourself a good set of cans, you don't need to do this. I have never, ever in my life ever equalized a headset or a pair of headphones. Never have done it. I don't recommend that you do it. Just operate and work with what you got. And honestly, this might be one of the things where if you invest your money correctly, you spend your money correctly, you probably won't have to buy another set until the one you have breaks. And then lastly, over here under level controls, we've got the headphone output, which is literally the volume for your headphones. You can pick and choose. You can do all the way down here to nothing, all the way up here to maximum. It's entirely up to you. And then you can also adjust the mic monitoring right now. So at 0 dB, it's just, 0 dB. You can boost it all the way up to 6 dB if you want, or you can bring it down some more if you want. And honestly, if you don't want to hear yourself speaking into the microphone, just bring it back down all the way down to -100 and basically turn that thing off. Now, another really cool thing that you can do with the Beacn app here for some reason is, I'll get it as close as I can to 0, is that you can link the two, right? By clicking the link button here. So right now they're not linked. That means that you can change them independent of each other, or you can link them. And as you adjust one, you adjust the other as well, just like so. All right. But I prefer to unlink them because, again, I don't always want to hear my voice as I'm speaking into the microphone when I'm streaming or recording gameplay or whatever it is. But congratulations, you've now set up your headphones for the Beacn Studio. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we have now officially set up our microphone and we have set up our headphones. And now we're ready to start talking about our audio routing and mixing. I'm sure this is the part a lot of you are looking forward to. So let's get right to it. I do want to remind you, we are still talking about a single PC setup right now. I will cover dual PC setups and a PC/console setup and another little surprise later on down the line. But thank you for hanging around so far. Let's get right to it. Actually, before we move on to the mixing part of this video, I want to walk you through something super fast. Okay, so another thing that I love about the Beacn app and the Beacn Studio is the fact that you can also create your own profiles for not just the Beacn Studio as far as your mic settings are concerned, but also for your mixing profiles. And I'll get on the mixing profiles when I come into the mixing part. But in my example, in my scenario, in my use case, I have an SM7B, which is a dynamic microphone. I've got the Earthworks Ethos, which is a condenser microphone. So I can create profiles for each microphone individually and save them separately. And that way, when I connect my SM7B, I just connect the mic and I can go ahead and switch on over to my SM7B profile, whether I'm using no cloud lifter or with a cloud lifter here. And if you may have noticed earlier in a video when I did this, you can simply hit plus right here, rename your profile, do all your setup. And then since we're using this new profile right here, you hover over the profile that you want to save everything to. You can hit save here, or you can right click and hit save right here. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now let's talk about the mixing. This is the good stuff here too. So in order to get all your audio routing taken care of, you have to go to the icon here at the very top with the mixing icon there. And as you can see, I already have everything set up here for my current setup. But let's see if we go to new, anything changes here. Okay, this is what it looks like by default right here. All right. It's going to have your mic channel automatically on by default because you have a microphone plugged into your Beacn Studio. You're going to have a chat channel, which is where you would route, programs such as Discord, for example, or Skype, if anybody still uses that. Music is pretty self-explanatory. This is where Spotify is going to go. Browser is going to be your browser audio from your browser. So if you're watching a YouTube video or a Twitch stream or whatever it is, any media coming from your browser, it's going to get routed to your browser channel here on the Beacn app. Game is going to be the game audio from any games you're playing on your PC, okay? And then system is going to be all of the other sounds coming out of your PC, such as your Windows notifications, etc. What is really cool here about the Beacn app and how it does what it does is that when you run this for the very first time, at the very top right corner, there's going to be like a red button / notification that's going to basically say, hey, your Windows is not configured correctly to use the Beacn app. Click here and we'll take care of that for you. And all you literally need to do is just click it and it does it for you. You don't have to do anything else. What it does is that it changes your recording devices down here and your playback devices down here so that everything is playing nice with Windows and Windows is playing nice with the Beacn app. But I'm pretty sure you want to see some of this stuff in action. So we're going to go ahead and run Discord. And as a matter of fact, I have it now opened up over here on my secondary monitor. And you will see that Discord pops up here under applications and that it is already automatically assigned to the chat channel. And if you want to verify that, you simply go here to the mixer and you look under chat, and down here in this section is where you're going to see any and all applications assigned to that given channel that are currently active. Okay, so if I had Skype assigned to chat, but Skype is closed, there's no sound coming from it at all, it's not going to appear here. When you are dealing with something like Discord, you're going to want to make sure you set this up correctly, right? Actually, we minimize this so you can all see this. I'm sorry, I am doing this live as I record this. So you're going to go to your settings. We're going to go ahead and go to voice and video. It should automatically be set up this way, okay? But your default input device needs to be your voice chat mic for your Beacn Studio right here. And your default output device needs to be chat to Beacn Studio. If that's set up that way, you are good to go. You don't have to do anything, which is nice because it looks like the Beacn app just does it all for you automatically. Now, let's suppose that we want to go ahead and start adding in some game audio, right? So we can control the levels of volume that I hear versus what you're going to hear. Well, I'm running Elden Ring right now in the background, and you can see here Elden Ring is down here under applications, and it looks like it's pre-assigned to game. In the event that it doesn't get pre-assigned to anything, or if you just want to move it to a different channel, I could, for example, click and hold here on Elden Ring and take it over here to browser. And now it's going to be under my browser channel. And if that's the case, when I click into the game, you should hear some audio right here, which I can see that you are. All right, as a matter of fact, let me just swing. Yep, okay, cool. And in order to really make sure about that, I'm going to mute, using the Beacn Mix Create, I'm going to mute the audience channel for browser, and you're not going to hear a thing. Now I've unmuted the browser channel in the Beacn Mix Create, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. As a matter of fact, because you're all here, I'm going to go ahead and just fuck this guy up real quick. And by fuck him up, I meant clearly he was going to fuck me up for a little bit too. But all right, so there you go. So in case you don't want to stick to the pre-assigned channel that the Beacn app assigns it to, you are able to go ahead and move it around, right? So again, if I want to move Elden Ring from browser to game, I just simply click, hold, drag, and drop into game. And now if I go back into Elden Ring, it is now being controlled under the game channel, right? So for example, Beacn Mix Create. I'm going to go ahead and mute Elden Ring for the audience mix. And you can't hear a thing. Now let me go ahead and unmute it. And bam, just like that. That's how you assign apps to different channels. Now, what would be the point of calling this a mixer if it didn't have the ability to actually allow you to control the volume of each one of your channels independent of one another? What I mean by that more specifically is you are able to control the volume of your game, for example, how we were just playing Elden Ring, for how loud or how quiet it is for yourself via the personal mix represented by the icon with the person and the headphones on here, and independently control how loud or how quiet it is for your audience, aka this live audience streaming type icon, right? So the audio that you output to your stream is controlled by the right meter in each channel. The audio and the levels are controlled by the left meter here for yourself, right? Now, really cool thing is that you can link them together. So if I want my personal mix to always be like at about here for myself in the game channel, but I know that for my streams, it needs to usually be about here, I can link them. And then if I bring them down, it should keep them relatively proportionately the same. You see? Just like that. Really awesome. Now, if you want total control, you can unlink them by clicking there. And now you're able to mix and match and set them up however in the world your heart desires, which is pretty freaking cool. The next thing that I really like about the Beacn app here is that sometimes there are times where I want to play my games, especially if I'm streaming or recording content for YouTube. I want to play my games with my headphones on, right? That way there's no audio coming from my speakers. It doesn't bleed into my microphone audio and we're good to go. We have a great audio experience. But maybe there's a time where I don't want to play with my headphones and I want to switch to my speakers. And instead of having to go through Windows to change the output device, I'm not going to do it here because it's going to create a very nasty feedback. You can go here and just simply click this button right here and it'll toggle it down and activate the second device. But as you can see here, there's no second device selected because this is a new profile. So the headphones for the Beacn Studio are already chosen by default as one personal output device. We're going to click this button here and speakers to Realtek high definition. Those are my edifier speakers that I have on the sides of my monitor here. If I wanted to route my audio from my headphones to my speakers instead, I simply click this button down here and voila. I am now listening through all my audio through my speakers instead of my headphones at as simple as just one click of a button. Or if you're setting up, probably 2 or 3. Now down here at the bottom, we see 2 different tabs. We'll see assignments and routing table. Under assignments, you see the devices that are set as your defaults for your recording devices, aka your microphone, and your playback devices, aka routing all of the sound from your computer through the Beacn Studio so that the Beacn app can handle all of the routing. On the side here, we have all the outgoing studio link assignments. And when I get to the dual PC/PC console setup, I'll cover in depth what that actually means. What I do want to show you over here right now is the routing table. If you've ever used the Go XLR or the Go XLR Mini, this might look very familiar to you. And if it does, it's because, well, Beacn was started by former TC Helicon staff. So they took some ideas with them and basically expanded on them. You're able to tell Beacn where to send audio and how to do your different submixes, okay? So for example, if I'm playing music through the Beacn app and I don't necessarily want to hear the music, besides just muting the channel altogether for myself, I can simply say, hey, I don't want music for my personal mix, right? And maybe I do want it for my audience mix, so I'll leave that clicked in. But then the music I'm listening to is not necessarily copyright friendly because I'm not listening to royalty-free music. I'm not on Stream Beats because I am actually. I love Stream Beats, but in this example, I've never heard of Harris Heller. I've never heard of Stream Beats. So I don't feel like dealing with copyright strikes. So you can go down here to your VOD track, all right? In your VOD track, you're able to tell the Beacn app what to route out for audio and save to your VOD on Twitch. And in a lot of cases, what you can do is if you're listening to non-royalty free music, instead of having a green check mark here under music, you can simply click it again and eliminate the music from your VOD track, which is incredibly helpful. Now, interestingly enough, they have the same, you got the whole table for personal mix, which is what you hear. You got the audience mix, which is what your audience will listen to when you're watching your streams or your content. They have the same exact setup here for the voice chat mic. Now, the only time I've ever run into this before was when I was using the Rodecaster Duo. That's what it is, tongue twister. I'm also very tired. But when I was using the Rodecaster Duo, you could route audio sources through their like mic channel, their chat channel. It was a little weird. This one, I'm going to recommend that you keep it as is. You only want mic audio routing through this. Maybe if you want them to also hear the music you're listening to, that might be a thing. I could see where that would get annoying, but for the most part, just take my word for it. You just want to leave this as is and just only have your mic relay on here and nothing else. And again, same exact thing, right? VOD track, you pick and choose what goes into your VOD and what doesn't. And the fact that they've included this here, and it's been there since I believe day one, the fact that it's been included here and the fact that you have that much control over your audio, where it goes and where it's saved to, is fantastic. Now, one drawback that some of these mixers out there have is that they are software only, okay? And very, very few companies out there put out a software mixing application that is also supported by hardware. Think of things like the Elgato Stream Deck and the Stream Deck Plus with their Wavelink. Now, the Rodecaster Duo and Rode's beta upgrade that allows you to add virtual channels. You can start, actually using the faders to control your volume there. And what Beacn has is the Beacn Mix Create, which is an absolutely phenomenal piece of hardware. And it's super easy. There is literally nothing you need to do extra to get the Beacn app and all of this here working with your Beacn Mix Create, because once you have your app set up with all the routing and the channels and the levels set up, you simply and literally just plug the Beacn Mix Create into your PC and it automatically recognizes it and it automatically shows up with the channels that you have set up, and you're able to adjust the volumes on the fly. But not only are you able to adjust the volumes for yourself, there's a specific button that you hit here and it switches over from personal mix to audience mix, allowing you to also adjust the volumes independently of your personal mix for your audience, which is, again, phenomenal. There's another series of buttons. There's a total of 4 knobs, and underneath each knob, there's another button. That button, you can assign what happens to it here, okay? So right now, as you can see, that button under each one of those knobs, it'll mute that source for the audience. So for example, if I hit it underneath my all, because hitting that button mutes this source for the audience, but maybe I want to mute it for all. I don't want to hear my own microphone, and I don't want my audience to hear the microphone. I want to mute it completely. I can click the knob in. And if I click it again, now you can't hear me, all right? But it looks like they give us some options as to what we can do. So we're able to mute for ourselves, mute for the audience, or mute all, which I think is fantastic, right? If you get the Beacn Studio and you're unable to afford the Beacn Mix Create immediately, that is perfectly fine. You want to get the Beacn Mix Create as quickly as humanly possible because they work so well together. It's not even funny. With Elgato, and this is about the most I'll spend on Elgato here, you have to buy the hardware, download the software, etc. But you have to go through the setup of setting up the dials per channel per input. And it's not incredibly difficult, but it is an extra step between A and B, okay? With the Beacn Mix Create, you literally plug it in, run the app, it recognizes that the app is running, it recognizes your profile, puts it right here on a very nice, fairly large screen display for you to see what your levels are at. Not only does it have meters, but it also has numerical values to tell you how loud or how soft it is. And that's it. It's a no-brainer. This is peanut butter and jelly, peanut butter chocolate, whatever combination of your favorite things you can possibly think of. That is the Beacn Mix Create with the Beacn Studio. Now, let's talk about setting up your Beacn Studio and the Beacn app with your main streaming / recording PC and a console. And in this instance, we're going to be using a PlayStation 5 because that is the console that I have. I cannot speak for whether or not this method works for Xbox Series X or S. I would assume and hope that it'd be something fairly similar. But if you remember earlier in the video, we set up and added a new channel called Linkin. Okay, that's extremely important here. All right. When you set that channel up, there's a couple of things I want you to do before you even bother going into your PS5. Okay, I'm just going to save you a couple of steps. So in the Beacn app, you've added in Linkin. You know, you can mute do your things right here, blah, blah, whatever. So in the Beacn app, we've already added Linkin. What I need you to do is I need you to go down here to outgoing studio link assignments. And I need you to make link out number 1 and change that to microphone 2 Beacn Studio. Just do that right now. I'll explain why in a moment. Just need you to blindly trust me. Good, moving on. From the PS5 main menu, what you want to do as soon as you set this up is you're going to go up here to your settings. We're going to scroll down to sound. We're going to go to audio output, and your output device needs to be set to USB headset Beacn Studio link. That's it. And then for your microphone, you need to make sure that your input device is set to USB headset Beacn Studio link. Now, I had you assign your link out to the Beacn Studio mic because you're able to use your microphone that you have connected to your Beacn Studio simultaneously on your PC and on your console, which has been a feature I have been dreaming of for a very, 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 very long time, and Beacn did it. All right, and just so you can kind of get an idea of what it sounds like. Yeah, it's really weird hearing myself, but this kind of gives you an idea of what it sounds like, right? I think. But as you can see, it's there, and it sounds really good. Better than any gaming headset microphone out in the market. If you don't switch link out to Beacn Studio mic, what may potentially happen is that it by default may be set to your audience mix. And when you try to come here to adjust microphone level and you would start speaking into it, you're going to get echo, a lot of echo. And then you're going to sit there, try to rip your hair out, not understanding how to fix this. It's fixed simply by changing your link out to Beacn Mic Studio or Beacn Studio mic, whatever it is. Just change it to your microphone. All right. Now, as far as game audio is concerned, let's check out Vessel of Hatred. All right, so I'm rolling a Ice Shards Mage here, which is a very nasty build to do. Obviously, I'm not a pro, but I love this build. And yes, I did purchase the Platinum for the Kael'thas skin because, yeah. Wow, it's awesome. And there it is. PS5 audio into the Beacn Studio. And I want to make sure I highlight this. Clean PS5 audio through the Beacn Studio. And what I mean by that, and the reason I am very much so adamantly saying clean, is that once upon a time in a galaxy far, far away, I used to own a Rodecaster Duo. I was going to say a Rodecaster Duo, but it's the same thing. Anyways, I owned a Rodecaster Duo, and I tried plugging in the USB cable from my PS5 into the USB port number 2 in the Rodecaster Duo, and when the audio from the PS5 entered the Rodecaster, it introduced the most unbearable, god-awful electrical hum, buzz, noise, crazy distortion into the audio of the PS5 that literally made it unusable. I couldn't stream with it, I could not record with it, and I had to find a different way of capturing PlayStation 5 audio, which involved me running a double male-ended 3.5mm cable and aux cord from the back of my gaming monitor into the line-in port of my motherboard, going into Windows, adjusting where that line-in port sound gets routed to, basically telling it to route it to an aux channel in Wavelink, and I was able to do that then. Thanks to the Beacn Studio and how clean of a job it does, I'm able to just simply connect a cable from my PS5 to the back of the Beacn Studio, and I get clean audio, and I can simultaneously use my Earthworks ethos across my PC and my PS5. I don't, on that alone, I said this in my previous video, on that alone, this was a must buy for me. Okay, now that pretty much sums everything up in regards to setting up your Beacn Studio with your PC and a console. Everything else, all the other setup that we have going on over here in the Beacn app, setting up your channels, your volume levels, your routing table, everything is still the same. The only difference here is that we added the link in channel to support the second device, and we changed link out from audience mix over here to microphone 2-Beacn Studio to ensure that there was no echo when using the microphone on the PS5 if you're in like a party, for example, on your PlayStation 5. I absolutely adore this device. But we still have more to cover, so let's move on. All right, so in order to get this to work on a dual PC setup, that means that you have one computer dedicated to gaming only and a second computer dedicated to streaming and or recording. All right, this is what you need to do. So you're going to download the Beacn app directly to the computer that is doing the streaming and the recording. On the computer that you're using dedicated to gaming, you need to download a different application from Beacn's website in order to take advantage of the Beacn link, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and type in Beacn app. All right, type that in here into Google Chrome or whatever browser you decide to use. I can't think of anything else you'd want to use out there, but hey, you do you. We're going to go to Beacn app download here at the very tippy top. The first one that you see is the Beacn application, but if you scroll down just a little bit more, you're going to see here Windows second PC. All right, Beacn Link app is only required if you're using a 2 PC setup. This app should be installed on the secondary system. So we're going to go ahead and download this. This is a gaming laptop, not necessarily a gaming computer or tower, but it's the same exact thing. This is a really solid laptop, by the way. This is one of the Lenovo Legion ones. I think it's got a 4060 in it. All right, so it's almost done downloading. We're going to go ahead and install and hit yes. We accept the terms and conditions. I'll do it for everybody. I don't want a desktop icon. Install. It'll ask you to disconnect all of your Beacn devices from your PC that you're installing this to. I don't have any connected to this right now, so that's okay. All right, after the installation is complete, you have the option to go ahead and launch the Beacn app. So we're going to go ahead and finish, and we can see here Beacn Link starting to run. Now, the next thing that we're going to want to do is that we're going to go ahead and connect our second computer to the second USB-C port on the back of the Beacn Studio. In order to do that, you're going to have to get yourself another USB-C cable. I am using the cable that was sent in and provided with the Beacn microphone. It's USB-C to USB-C, and it also does come included with a USB-C to USB-A adapter. But the reason I'm using this cable in particular is, one, I know for a fact that this cable will work with the Beacn application and whatever hardware you connect it to. And number two, quite frankly, it's a very long cable. So as far as length is concerned, I have no concerns. Now, also bear in mind that the cable does come labeled. You have one end specifically designated for the microphone, which this is what's going to go into the Beacn Studio. And the other end is labeled as PC. This is what's going to go into my laptop. So I'm simply going to move my other keyboard here a little bit out of the way, and I'm going to plug it in right here on the side, like so. And I'm going to take the microphone end and loop it back here. So it's going to be a little messy. I'm going to loop it to the back of my Beacn Studio. All right, now let's see. Again, this is the first time I actually do this, so we're learning live together right now. All right, so joke's on me. When you download the Beacn Link app on your gaming PC, what you actually need to do next, of course, at this point, you've got your computer, your second computer, your gaming computer connected to the second USB-C port on the back of the Beacn Studio. Once you do that, you're going to go here to the Beacn app on your streaming PC. You're going to go to the gear, and you're going to make sure that enable 4-channel mode on second device is selected. When you do this, and when you select it and activate that, it might cause some sort of a disruption with your audio on your gaming PC. If that happens to you, no worries. All you got to do is restart the computer, because once you do, it should all be working just fine. In order to test that, we're just going to go ahead and ping right here. And you can hear that my Beacn app on my streaming computer is picking up the audio from my gaming laptop. But I want to be able to separate some of the sources, some of the audio coming from my gaming laptop right here. So in order to test that out, we're going to go ahead and, in the spirit of continuity, play some Diablo 4. All right, fantastic. So you can see that Diablo 4 is running. Now, what I need you to see next is right here under the Beacn app, you're going to see Diablo 4 PC2. We're going to take that, click, hold, and drag it over to link into. And now I should have all of my Diablo 4 audio coming in separately into link into. As a matter of fact, we're going to go ahead and test that. I can hear it getting louder, right? And you know, I'm gonna unlink everything. So let me bring it down to what I want to hear. All right. And then I'll bring that up. Cool. So I'm happy with the levels. Let me switch back to personal. Every time I'm in audience mix and I hear my microphone, I hear myself, it always throws me off, dude. I struggle big time with that. I'm gonna turn off display capture. All right, Vorador, if anybody in chat can let me know who that is, you get bonus points. All right, so thank God for cross progression and cross platform. I travel for work a fairly healthy amount. And so being able to take my laptop, continue Vessel of Hatred on the go and coming back and then playing it either on my PC here at home or on my PS5 is definitely a much welcome addition here. Oh my lord. There we go. I was about to say. All right. I'm hearing audio. I know y'all are hearing audio.
I'm not ready yet. I'm out of mana.
I'll just kill these off. Bam. There you go. We've now split up the gaming audio from my laptop and the system audio from the laptop across two different channels on the Beacn app on my streaming PC right here. So all of my system audio is coming into link in. All of my game audio, specifically in this case for Diablo 4, is coming into link 2 in. I mean, I don't know what else to really say here, y'all. This is pretty awesome stuff. If you had things like Discord running on your gaming PC, maybe you had Spotify, or you're using your browser to watch other content to react to, you're able to do up to 4, I believe, link channels, right? So let's make sure we're correct on that. Yep, link 3 and link 4. So, for example, I'm gonna go back here to the laptop. We're gonna open up Chrome. We're gonna go to my YouTube. And we're going to do Stream Beats by Harris Heller. All right, go there. We're going to just go ahead and select, I don't know, what's really cool. We're going to go with the Midnight playlist. Why not? That sounds like it's good. Minus the very annoying ad here. All right, so right now, you can see that it's all coming through link 1, but since we have the Beacn Link app, we've turned on the 4 channels. I'm able to click, hold, drag, and move it over here to link 3 in. And I'm gonna unlink the 2 here so that I'm able to independently adjust the levels. And for myself, this is a little loud. This is actually on link 3 in, so link 3, I'm going to turn it down for myself. And there we go. I'm going to turn it down just a bit for you too. But yeah, there you go. That's it. That is how you set up the Beacn Studio with the Beacn app on your streaming PC, the Beacn Link app on your gaming PC, and basically control up to 4 different sources from the gaming PC, 4 sources of audio on the Beacn app on your streaming PC, in addition to all of the other sources that you're able to control and add from the streaming PC itself. So for example, you don't have to run Google Chrome and stream beats on YouTube off of your gaming PC. You can run that on your main computer, on your streaming computer, and dedicate that to its own channel in the Beacn app and save one of the 4 channels that you're able to route through the gaming PC to the Beacn Studio to your streaming PC for something a little bit more critical, more important. Maybe that's where you're doing your Discord chat for multiplayer purposes or what have you. I cannot stress enough how awesome, how easy, and how efficient they really just made this. I've been a big fan of like total audio control, and I don't think anyone's done it better to date now. Moving on. If you were curious as to whether or not you could use the Beacn Studio on your mobile device, well, that's what you're watching and listening to right now as we speak. What you're listening to is my Earthworks Ethos running through my Beacn Studio, running through the Beacn app with all the processing, outputting that signal through a USB-C to USB-C cable plugged into my Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, and this is the end result. This is fantastic for any creators out there who take advantage of their phone, creating either long form or short form content. It's a lot easier to do that, especially if you're doing short form. You can just capture everything straight to your phone, slap it in a CapCut, edit it, and then upload it to Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, or even TikToks. So if you're curious, the answer is yes, you can. Now, before we wrap up, as promised, I did tell you in the previous video I did about the Beacn Studio that if you had any questions, comment them in the video, and I'll get back to them here in this one. So I think we might have a couple here. D-Racer90, you should test it out or compare it against a Roland Bridge Cast 1 or 3-way with the Elgato Stream Deck Plus XLR. I don't own a Roland Bridge Cast 1, all right? And one of my big things here is that I don't want to speak on things if I've never put my hands on them. So I've never touched a Roland Bridge Cast. I know what it is, but I can't in good faith have any way to compare it. So what I am going to do is after this video, the next video I'll be working on that's related to the Beacn Studio is a direct comparison of the Beacn Studio, the Beacn app versus Elgato Wave XLR and the Elgato Wavelink software. So stay tuned for that because I think that one's going to be a very interesting conversation to have. A Brian here says, did you try out the Rodecaster beta that has virtual channels? I was considering ditching Rode for Beacn until that beta update got released. I did not try it out. I did own a Rodecaster Duo for quite some time, and several months ago I went ahead and sold it. The reason being is that I honestly gave up hope on Rode actually releasing that virtual channel update. And of course, in traditional me fashion, I sell something, several months later, the update comes out for the thing I've been begging it to do. So I'm not able to try it out. But that being said, I can comment on this to some degree because I have experience with the Rodecaster Duo. I still think, and I've seen videos on what it can do and it looks amazing, but I still think that $500 for a mixer and audio interface, which is, let's just be real, Rode's mixer, that Rodecaster Duo will make just about any microphone sound absolutely amazing. It's incredible, but $500 is a steep price for just the audio interface and just the mixer, okay? If you take into consideration what I have here, the Earthworks Ethos is a $400 microphone. The Beacn Studio is $250. That's a $650 investment, right? That's still a lot of money, but you don't have to get an Earthworks Ethos. You can get something like an Audio-Technica AT2020 for $100 and go from $650 down to $350, right? Between the AT2020 and the Beacn Studio. If I were to do the same exact setup with Rhodes and Rodecaster, I would have to spend $500 on a Rodecaster Duo and then the $400 for this microphone. That's almost $1,000 to basically do almost the same exact stuff, but not quite, because what really separates Beacn right now from just about everyone else is the Beacn Link. Linking in your secondary device and enabling it to control 4 different audio sources from your second device via your primary streaming and recording computer. I think that's fantastic. I don't think that anybody can touch that right now. Kidman104 here asks, what wired headset would you recommend for this setup for PS5? Listen, I am a huge advocate of the Beyerdynamic DT770 Pros. These are the 80 ohm versions. I've been using this headphone, I want to say 1.5 to 2 years, and they're amazing. I love how everything sounds on there. I would honestly tell you, at the most simplistic level of advice, is stay away from gaming headsets. The gaming headsets are just full of gimmicks and they don't really deliver great quality audio when you compare them to something like an audiophile headphone like the Beyerdynamic or a good pair of Sennheisers, for example. But there's another one. Ironically, speaking about Rode, right? The Rode NTH100s. I use these on my laptop because that's where I edit all my videos. And I love how these things sound. I love how they fit. I love how comfortable and how lightweight they are. And they just have a very, very nice way of fitting around my dome and around my ears. I do recommend this one, but in all honesty, if I had to pitch the NTH100s versus the DT770s, I'm gonna go with the DT770s. The DT770s all day. Mrs. SX Trixie M says, that's a fantastic name, by the way. I totally get that. I never got to play the game back in the day. But anyways, does it make them sound like the Rodecaster Duo when connected to the PS5? I didn't get clarification from their question here. Oh, yeah. Okay. Are you referring to the god-awful audio quality and noise one would get when connecting a PS5 to the Rodecaster via USB? She replies, yes, I got Beacn Studio. Have not heard that sound. Thank you so much for the video. Thank you, Trixie. So no, and what Trixie's referring to here, and I mentioned this earlier in the video, is that when I connected my console to the Rodecaster Duo, there's an issue between how the two devices communicated with one another, and it introduced an ungodly and awful amount of like electronic feedback, noise, hum, buzzing, distortion. I mean, it literally rendered my console audio. I was playing Jedi Survivor at the time. I distinctly remember this. It literally rendered the audio in that recording completely useless. So the Beacn Studio does not have that issue because they figured out how to do it, and you get incredibly clean and clear and great audio when you connect your console to the Beacn Studio. And then lastly, you can't really see him here at the bottom, but user unknown 2i2 says, but who? I don't know, buddy. I think you're the only person who knows that answer. Anyways, moving on. Ladies and gents, that is it. That's all I've got for y'all today. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me. This has been a very long video. I think this is one of the longest videos I've ever done on this channel, but as of now, at the end where we are here now, you will now have your Beacn Studio, Birkin. I can't even speak anymore. You've got your stuff set up. Congratulations. You're ready to go out there and take full advantage of the Beacn app, the Beacn Link software, and the Beacn Studio to get out there, start streaming, start creating, and making the most out of it, because it's an absolutely phenomenal device. Absolutely phenomenal. If there's anything I missed in this whole process, in this whole video, let me know in the comments below. If I get enough comments, I might just make another follow-up video. If I don't get enough comments, I'll try to reply to those as they come in. Until next time, be good to yourselves, be good to one another. Peace out.